These young Washington Wizards are ready to embrace the new challenge that comes within this 2025 campaign. The one with the biggest chip on his shoulder, though, it's Cam Whitmore.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
DC family, you're locked on to the Washington Wizards, where you're a part of our family. We thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. If you're not part of the DC family, come on, subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as well. I'm one of your co-hosts, Ben Strover. I cover all things DC sports for 106.7 The Fan and the Team 980, and alongside, as always, my good friend, my co-host, host of the DMV Sports Zone page, a DC sports content creating savant. That is Abdullah Ayubi. AB, how are we doing today on this Tuesday?
Great. One day after Wizards Media Day. Can't wait to talk about our guy, Cam Whitmore. A lot to talk about him and what can he do this upcoming season.
Yes, sir. And to put it lightly, Cam Whitmore is a dog. He is a beast. He's got that chip on his shoulder. I was the last person that got to ask him a question, and his answer was all I needed to hear. We're going to break him down, how his teammates are feeling about him, and why we think he is going to break out early with this Washington Wizards team. Everybody has bought in and embraced this new challenge that comes with competing. Everybody wants the Wizards organization to operate as a meritocracy. That was the word that Corey Kispert used, and that's really the best way to put it. Everyone is going to have an equal opportunity to earn all of their minutes and really expand the role to what they want it to be. Bub Carrington, he spoke as well, and he had some interesting comments about his new role that we're going to get into as well. And lastly, in the final segment, we'll just go through the overarching, what we're starting to see from how people have bought into this organization. AB, starting with Cam Whitmore, one thing that really stuck out to me was also kind of like how we talked about Trey Johnson yesterday, was the way other players talked about him and what they've seen from him early on just from working out with him. Trey Johnson said that Cam Whitmore has been a nightmare to pick up in transition because of his power and his speed. He then said, in quote, "Nobody's standing in front of that." And man, I think that's a great way to put it, because what do we know about this Wizards team? They're going to play a lot in transition. That's really how they've been the past couple of seasons. They love to run, and I think Whitmore is going to thrive in that role, AB.
Especially from a young squad that's going to play fast, having guys like A.J. Johnson, Cam Whitmore, Bilal Coulibaly, high flyers. I mean, the athleticism that Cam Whitmore is going to bring, he talked about it, how he understands that the way it ended in Houston, he didn't want it to happen, but now doing it in his hometown team, a team that he ended up rooting for growing up, you love to see it. And I feel like a guy like him, who admitted that his defense needs to be better,
yes,
on a team that wants to be better defensively, he's checking off all those boxes. And offensively, I mean, the guy can score 20 points a game. We just have to see how much of those opportunities he's going to get early on in the season.
You know how you know he's a real Wizards fan, and it's truly like love that he had for this organization? He called Capital One Arena the Verizon Center. He said, yeah, remember, he's like, I can't wait to play in the Verizon Center. I mean Capital One Arena. He remembers the days back in the phone booth. He said his dad would pick him up from school and said, come on, we go to the Wizards game. And he was there for some of those big playoff moments. It's crazy that this has all come full circle for him. But I'm glad you brought up the defense, because he was asked about his playing time in Houston. He said that he did struggle early on in the season, kind of went through a slump. He wasn't really feeling himself mentally, and a big part of that was because he didn't have the defensive mentality that he needed. He has embraced this new challenge that has come his way. He said he wants to be a better defender. He knows he's going to be a better defender, and he just wants to perfect his offensive game. He said he has a bunch of confidence in what he can do at all three levels and how he just needs to polish and continue perfecting what he's able to do. I love to hear that, because he's going to have a lot of talent alongside of him. And it's not going to be the same, because it's not going to be as polished and worked up as it was in Houston, a team that is in a win-now mode. But you got a lot of guys that are fighting to showcase what they can do in the NBA, and I feel like that's going to thrive in a good way. It seems like everyone around him has really responded well to what his presence is going to be within the organization. I think the organization, the way they've hyped him up themselves, the coaching staff, Will Dawkins, everybody is super excited to see what Cam Whitmore brings to the table. To me, it almost feels like he just got drafted in the first round, and we're like seeing him play.
Exactly, Ben.
That's
this
what
guy
it really
hasn't
feels
played.
like.
He hasn't played in summer league. He hasn't played in the game for us, and it's like this team has so much respect for him, and that's what you love to see.
And yeah, Like that's really the way it feels to me. We're gonna feel like a kid waiting on Christmas to see Cam Whitmore play his first minutes for this team because of the high flying athleticism, the dunks. So many people asked about dunk contests. They said, "Are you guys like competing to see who's gonna have the craziest high flying dunk?" They asked AJ Johnson about that. They asked Bilal Coulibaly, and they're all kind of like, "Yeah, we compete with one another, but we all want to see each other eat. We want to see each other go rock the rim." And I think Cam Whitmore is going to rock the rim. He had more dunks where he reached over 35 inches on his vertical than the entire Wizards team combined last year. So that goes to show the athleticism they are getting in him. Another thing that stuck out to me, when the Wizards released their training camp roster, Abdullah, Cam Whitmore listed at 235 pounds. He is a freight train compared to everyone else on this team, and he has the most athleticism on this team. Like, this is a minier version of Zion. He's not Ozempic Zion. I'll put it like that. But Cam Whitmore at 235, sheesh. Dude. He's going to be a problem for dudes trying to get in his way and stop. That's why Trey Johnson said nobody's standing in front of that. He's got serious size and muscle to his game as well. That's going to make him super impactful getting downhill and getting to the rim. It seems like he's put on even more muscle this offseason as well.
I think, Ben, if he's not playing on Sundays, he has to play for the Commanders, man. We need a linebacker out there. I think Cam Whitmore could be the guy.
Somebody, Locked On Law, asked the other day, he said, did you ask Trey Johnson if he could play corner for the Commanders because Marshawn Lattimore isn't any good? And I said, he doesn't have any hobbies outside of basketball. There's no way he's going to play for the Commanders. He doesn't even care about football. Somebody asked him on the way out if he watched the Sunday Night Football game, and he said that he tried. Like, what does that mean, he tried? He gave up and went to bed?
I like that as a Commanders fan because he gets bored of watching the Cowboys. I'll give him that, but we got to figure out. There's going to be definitely some hobby that we're going to pick up from him soon.
So the last question in the press conference, I asked him, I said, you're in a new situation. You understand that you've been traded to an organization that's in a completely different spot. A win-now team, essentially decided it's better for the best of the team that we move on from you and give you a fresh start somewhere else. I said, does that give you a new chip on your shoulder? And he kind of looked at me and smirked. He said, I've had a chip on my shoulder since the day I was drafted.
Yeah, that was some type of answer. I think Cam Whitmore I think he's just ready to go out there, just like us waiting to see him play. He wants to go out there and hoop and just prove that there's a reason why he was drafted, and he wanted to have that situation be right in Houston. But again, two different timelines, two different systems, and this team wants to win just like Houston, but right now it's all about the young squad. And I think Cam Whitmore can be an alpha of this young squad that we have here in DC. And you love the chemistry that he has with Bub Carrington. I mean, the whole back and forth about him and Bub calling each other their son, their father, it was hilarious. Just seeing that and him not even playing a Wizards game, just goes to show the chemistry is already there.
Yeah, and you could see how the chemistry is played alongside just personal relationships with his teammates as well. Bub Carrington came in and he said, yeah, Cam, that's my son. And Christy Winter-Scott of the Monumental Sports Network brought it up to Cam and said, Bub said something about you. And he's like, oh, God, what did he say? And she was like, he said that you were his son. He's like I'm his dad, right? He's like, no, like, you're his son. He was like, no, he knows. Trust me, he knows his whole life that he's always been my son. But a lot of guys seem like they've established that connection. I think that's going to feed off well on the court. That's kind of what happens. That's what's going to happen to a team that has so many young players that are fighting to really earn their role within the NBA and try to figure out who they are. You have guys that are like-minded in these individuals. And I think it's funny how CJ McCollum and Chris Middleton have had to kind of adjust on the fly with the way young players are, because I feel like when those guys were 18 or 19 years old, they don't act quite the same as they are now. Bub Carrington very much out there in who he is personally. Like, it's very clear when you hear him talk in the press conference. Same thing with Cam Whitmore. Trey Johnson's a little bit more reserved, I would say, probably just because he's so dedicated from what we can see. But it's different. And I feel like the chemistry that they've tried to establish off the court already should be a sign of good things to come for them on the court. I feel like they're going to play super fast, as we mentioned, and I'd look out if I got in Cam Whitmore's way. That's all I can say right now. 235 is just something I just didn't even really I didn't even think about it, how he was actually a lot bigger. He's listed as 11 pounds heavier than Alex Sarr, who has put on a considerable amount of weight this offseason.
Everyone got taller and bigger, Ben. That's what you love to see, and that's what you expect from a young squad. And I'm hoping this Wizards team, this young offensive-minded Wizards team, is going to put up a lot of points this upcoming year.
Yeah, I just kind of wonder exactly when we're going to see this role for Cam Whitmore. He seems like he's hungry. He's got the mentality that he needs to, thrive in this meritocracy type situation that the Wizards have been. But he's got to be better defensively. He admitted that. And I feel like he's going to be better defensively. This team, the past 2 seasons, putting him in the category of inept defensively doesn't even do it enough, Josh. They were worse than that defensively. It was downright atrocious, and it has to be better. Everybody in the organization knows that. Everybody admits that, but is it actually going to be that way? Are we going to see those results actually transpire on the floor? That's the biggest question. Trey Johnson yesterday said it's a want-to thing. We're going to see. Does everybody really want to be better on defense? I can live with losing a lot of games if you were out there competing, making it hell for everyone on the defensive side of the basketball. And the measurables that Whitmore stacks up with as well, man, like he's got the tools to be a really good defender.
And I really hope that he is a top 3 scorer on this team this upcoming year because, again, you get a guy who you just traded 2 second-round picks for. And a lot of people talk about in today's NBA second-round picks aren't really worth anything, but Will Dawkins says otherwise. And I think he can be, Ben. And I'm not saying what happened with Bilal is a blessing because obviously we don't want to wish injury on anybody. But, again, this opens up to the opportunity of can you take advantage when the door opens up for you. And I'm hoping with Bilal out, Cam does take advantage of those minutes that he's going to get because once Bilal comes back, who knows, those minutes might go down for him.
And those guys also mentioned how they were excited to play on the court together. They asked Bilal, had he met Cam Whitmore, what he thinks of Cam Whitmore. And I think a lot of people were maybe trying to get at the sense here. I wonder if there's any animosity between those guys. I didn't get any sense of that. I think these guys have all understood where they are. And like I've said many times throughout this episode, they are ready to embrace the challenge that is going to come within this season, the competition that has transpired with practice, which started earlier today. Can't wait to see some of the reports that come out. I'm definitely going to try to get back out there to Care First Arena soon and catch one of the open practices, report back to you guys some of the things that I'm seeing. But Bilal mentioned multiple times he's excited to share the floor with Bilal Coulibaly. And that'd be really interesting if you have Bilal on the defensive side of the basketball pestering the number 1 option. If he gets a steal and you see Whitmore run in transition, everybody needs to look out. You don't know where that ball is going to go up at the rim and who's going to punch it on somebody's head. That's going to be an exciting combination to watch. The guy that might be feeding them the basketball this year for a good amount of the minutes on the floor, it's Bub Carrington. He's got a very new role, and he was asked what that role is going to look like for him and how he's embraced the way he wants to improve himself. And he had some interesting comments. I'm going to tell you about it next year on Locked On Wizards. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for a kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds makes every game that much more exciting. Whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup, FanDuel is the best way to do it. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Heard Bub Carrington speak yesterday at Wizards Media Day. Got a lot of questions about the new role that he'll likely have with Jordan Poole, obviously, who was traded away back in June. So this leaves some on-ball opportunities for Bub Carrington. They said to him, how do you feel like your skills have developed throughout this offseason as a point guard? What do you think, or what do you make of your new role being the point guard of this team? He said, to be honest, I feel like I'm not a point guard. I'm a basketball player. And it shows that he wants to provide the versatility this team is looking for. And everyone that we've heard speak about him, Whitmore, Johnson, Keyshawn George, the other guys that were asked about Bub Carrington, guys that would be ultimately feeding him the basketball, they've talked about how he has a pass-first mentality. I know most Wizard fans don't see that in him. They say he is a score-first player. But the way it seems it's been this summer and the workouts that they've provided, or the workouts that they've had with one another, it sounds like Bub has really tried to embrace his new role being a pass-first type of player. And I think it's going to show pretty early on just how he has improved as a playmaker.
And going back to what you said, versatility, Ben, that's what Will Dawkins is trying to build here in D.C., and it all starts with Bub Carrington. Jordan Poole, what he did here in Washington, we loved it. Unfortunately, he's in New Orleans right now, and now it's all about Bub Carrington. I like that he said he's a basketball player because a guy at his size can also pass the ball, rebound the ball. We're hoping he can do that in all phases of the game, but we want him to be that lead guy. And I don't know, man. I know not too long ago, our friend Tyler talked about the idea that you make CJ the point guard. I mean, right now, the way you see it, do you think that still makes sense, or do you have Bub run the one and just see where it goes from there and see his development?
Based on what the other players are saying about Bub Carrington and how they've been impressed with his craft and his ability to handle the basketball and create for others in the workouts they've had, it seems like there's an expectation amongst those guys that Bub is going to get a lot of these starting point guard opportunities. He'll have the basketball in his hands a lot. I'm really interested to see how they operate in the pick and roll because, the way we saw Alex Sarr last year, especially when he started to pick things up later as the season went on, his best scoring outputs, including the 34-point output against Denver, he operated really well out of the pick and roll. And I think Bub Carrington could be someone that's really effective in using that because we know he can shoot it from anywhere on the floor. It's really just about creating space, getting downhill, and making plays for the center, cutting to the basket as well. The one thing he worked on, especially this offseason, was getting in the gym with Colin Sexton. They said they worked on explosiveness, getting downhill, getting 2 feet in the paint. He understands that the biggest weakness to his game last year was the inefficiencies he had driving to the bucket and finishing. He says he worked tirelessly and he attacked that problem by all means necessary. Everyone is ready for what challenge has been put in front of them. It seems like the plan has been set in stone. Will Dawkins told these guys that you got 170 days before training camp starts. What's your biggest weakness? Go attack that, come back, and be better by the time training camp starts at that role. And it seems like what we've heard from everyone, the specific problems we saw from them in year number 1, they expect to be better in year number 2. I think Bub, same thing applies.
And I think hoping that the aggressiveness means that he's going to be at the free throw line more. And as much as we love John Wall, that's what he was known for, being able to get to the free throw line 6 to 7 to 8 times a game and being able to be that explosive. And on top of that mid-range shot that he has, he's only going to get better. I'm excited for year 2 Bub Carrington. And when it comes to the pick and roll game, him and Alex Sarr, maybe even Cam Whitmore, because we all know how bouncy he can be. It's just so many young guys on this team. And on top of that, guys like Trey Johnson, Keyshawn George in the corner for 3, Corey Kispert essentially 2. Just there's so many options on this Wizards team offensively. I really wonder how they're going to dish this ball out and who's going to get each piece of the pie.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes from yesterday, AB, I got hyped up when I heard them say this. Obviously, you're in a press conference, so you can't literally get out of your seat and go, whew. But Bub Carrington said about Cam Whitmore, he said, you're going to get up out of your seat a lot when you're watching him. So hopefully if you're a Wizards fan at home, you're going to throw your popcorn all over the place. You're going to get up and scream because Cam Whitmore does something crazy in a game. We get the vibe that that's what it's been like from within workout situations, from what people have seen about Cam Whitmore in his short time here in D.C. right now. He's attacked it, he's gotten after it, and he's really impressed his teammates for the most part. I feel like everybody has seen a super amount of impressive improvements across the board, and you love to hear other players that compliment other guys about them, about the way they've approached the offseason, the way they care about their craft, because Bub was very complimentary of guys like Alex Sarr, guys like Trey Johnson, saying that he was really impressed with the way they took care of themselves this offseason and made a really conscious effort to get better. I mean, anything else from really that stuck out to you, AB, about yesterday, like kind of what I'm bringing up here?
I just like going back to, we keep talking about him, but Trey Johnson, when they asked Bilal about first impressions of Trey Johnson, just a shooter. And I'm hoping that Trey Johnson's shooting ability will help this Wizards team just not be in that bottom 5 statistically in 3-pointers this upcoming year, because if we want to be in these games, you're going to have to be able to shoot the ball. I'm not saying shoot threes only during the game, but when you take those 3-point shots, I'm hoping Trey Johnson does, and I'm hoping that he makes it. I'm hoping that his rookie season, we'll see him in the 3-point competition.
That would be really cool if we could get a rookie Trey Johnson in the 3-point contest. But at the end of the day, I just want to see everyone improve. I want to see everyone really compete out there. And we're tired of getting blown out. We're tired of having to talk to players after they lose by 30, talk to guys after they lose 10 games in a row. They know that they don't want to be part of that. Nobody wants to be part of a culture that's continuously losing. Culture is such a big thing within this organization. They talk so much about that. Brian Keefe brought up the word culture maybe 15 times in the 20 minutes that he spoke to us yesterday. How do they really establish a culture without winning a lot of games? I'm going to give you my ideas how I think that's going to look when we come back on Locked On Wizards. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. When you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, and get smart categorization of your spending. You'll finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. One thing that surprised me about Monarch is that I identified I wasn't saving as much as I thought. I was able to maximize my investments and increase my savings rate rapidly by reviewing finances with my partner, and I kept a clear view of my financial health week to week and long term. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNBA. Really great article in the Washington Post today by Varun Shankar, one of our good buddies there that was there yesterday at Care First Arena. Be sure to check that out in the Washington Post. And he mentions how many NBA players desire meritocracy. They want the competition. They invite the opportunity. And that's certainly true based on what we heard yesterday from the majority of the players, the coaching staff. And the word culture got thrown around a whole lot yesterday, Abdullah. But one thing about culture that is apparent, this is the way it works in sports, and I've come to realize this over the past few years, you do need to win to establish culture. I feel like the Wizards are getting there in terms of the idea of culture, how everybody wants to compete, everybody wants to get better and improve on the things that they've needed to work on. But do you think they can really establish this culture without winning a lot of games this year? That's what I'm trying to make sense of right now.
Yeah, it's kind of hard, Ben, to say you have a good culture when you're not winning on the court. Off the court, obviously, you want to be drama-free. You don't want any toxicity anywhere in the locker room, to the coaching staff and the organization. However, if the team is not winning, it's just how much can we say, like, oh, yeah, this is a good culture when this team's not winning? Because at the end of the day, that's what sports, that's what the W column, that's what truly matters. If you're not winning, then you can address all the problems. When you're winning, it's like, okay, it's all good. And then the next loss, it's like, okay, why did we lose? So from the standpoint of this Wizards team having a good culture, I think they're towards that trajectory. But in order to finally hit that stride, is those wins have to be more than losses. And it's not going to happen this season, let's be real. But eventually down the line, you want it to be that way. And it also starts with being competitive, Ben. That C word. We're always talking about how this team every single night needs to be playing and needs to be in the game by the fourth quarter. You don't want to have the game over by the end of the first half. We saw it time and time again last season where you had two double-digit game losing streaks. It was unexcusable. There were times where people were questioning why there's so many away fans in the stands shouting MVP for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. It's because there's not really much to root for when the team's not competitive. So I'm hoping with that competitiveness edge that this Wizards team is going to bring this season, with new guys like Cam Whitmore, year two of Keyshawn, Bub, Alex Sarr, and all this special young talent that you have, eventually that culture will come into play. And that's what I think Brian Keefe was emphasizing yesterday in Media Day.
I think you hit it on the head, and they've made a conscious effort to bring in players they feel like fit their culture that they're trying to build. Character has been an important aspect that they've really taken into consideration, not just in free agency, but in the draft process and who they trade for. CJ McCollum kind of perfectly embodies that for me, because he is such a high character individual. Just hearing him speak yesterday, I go, oh yeah, the Wizards definitely got themselves one of the top of the line veterans you can have in your locker room right now. Just hearing what CJ McCollum has to say, he's so witty in everything he brings up. He's got a story for everything, but he understands exactly what his role is supposed to be. He understands where this organization is and how he can help uplift them in a way. And one of the ways we talked about this yesterday in the pod was just trying to get through to these young guys, help them understand the ways they need to take care of their bodies, how process-oriented they should be when it comes to going through an 82-game season. And then Trey Johnson, I guess he's a separate issue for everyone, because they can't get him to get the basketball out of his hands when he's not in the gym. He's still dribbling the basketball around somewhere, evidently. He can't get his mind off of basketball, and that ultimately might make him go crazy, according to CJ McCollum. But no, that's not even really the point I'm trying to get at here. What I'm really trying to take away from it is the Wizards have the right veterans in the building, and even though they're not going to have that winning culture established yet, CJ McCollum is somebody that knows how to win. He's been part of a team that went to that Western Conference Finals run with the Portland Trail Blazers, And hell, you got Chris Middleton. He's been a winner for quite some time now with Milwaukee. That championship back in 2021. Some other teams that have been competitive throughout the years. These guys know how to win, and they know how to make others around them learn what it's like to win. And I know they're not going to win a ton of games on paper, and there's going to be struggles that are apparent and evident throughout the season. But these are the kind of guys you need in the building to help the young players around them say, look, you're in this situation late in the game, you're down by a couple buckets. This is where that extra practice, that extra workout, those extra sprints at the end of the day are going to pay off. Are you gassed right now, or do you have enough left in the tank to go out there and compete right now and continue to go after down the final stretch? I feel like that's what those guys bring to the table, and I feel like everybody is ready to embrace what that looks like here in training camp.
I think, Ben, both Middleton and McCollum emphasize building winning habits for the young guys, because that's what they learned when they started off in the NBA. As rookies, you see how fast-paced this game is, and then eventually down the line it gets slower for you. And I'm hoping that the wisdom that these two guys have, I mean, I'll talk about it again. Chris Middleton was a number 2 option for a really good Milwaukee Bucks team that ended up winning an NBA championship in 2021. CJ McCollum, like you mentioned, played alongside Damian Lillard. These guys have the wisdom and the experience. Now can they sparkle it on to young guys like Bub Carrington, who we want to be that lead point guard here in Washington? Cam Whitmore, a second chance at being a star here in the NBA. Bilal Coulibaly, a guy who is extension eligible, but can he take that offensive jump? Alex Sarr, being a top 5 center in this league, can he be more aggressive? Hoping that these young guys learn from guys like him. And there's really not a better veteran group that I would rather have right now, because they know what they're doing. And judging by the way CJ McCollum was talking yesterday, he just knows basketball, and he's going to have a great career, like you mentioned yesterday, when he does broadcasting in the future.
Yeah, 100%. We might have to get him on the Locked On show. He'd probably take up the whole episode just talking, and we would be just fine with that. I'm sure you guys at home
of course
would be perfectly fine with that as well. So maybe we'll get that in the works one day. Hey, one thing that Craig Hoffman did say yesterday is that maybe we could get some one-on-one stuff at some point. So if that happens on the channel, that'll be great. We're definitely looking forward to something like that potentially happening as the season goes on, or whenever that time may be. But that would be super, super fun. One thing that I wanted to close out the show with, just bring up here, think about these Wizards players and the situation they were drafted in or traded into. If you're a player, like I feel like oftentimes like the average casual fan, some clown on social media, if you got drafted to the Wizards, be like, damn, career already over, you're going to the Washington Wizards. But those guys aren't going to look at it that way, because you have to think about it where the Wizards are at as an organization, and even where they were 2 years ago when a guy like Bilal was selected. You see they're going through the full teardown. If you're chosen to this team, it's because they genuinely believe in you. They think you have what it takes to bring the organization out of the mud, bring it back to what the standard of basketball should be in DC. I think that should give you a lot of confidence as a player. It should give you a lot of desire to be great, to be bought in to what the organization is trying to do, because that way you can be part of building something extremely special. You've seen the way Oklahoma City has done it. They had those guys that were on the team, and they got through the mud. They were able to survive through the rebuilding years, guys that were here when the team wasn't any good a couple years back. And man, look at it. It all culminates with an NBA championship following a 68-win season. You have to just look at that as the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't think you're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel quite yet if you're a Wizards player or if you're a Wizards fan, but you're getting there step by step at this point.
Not only, Ben, did they win a championship, they have so many freaking draft picks in the next couple of years. It is actually absurd.
They're going to run the NBA for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say. Who's going to stop them?
I'm hoping Will Dawkins can emulate that plan that he used in OKC.
Wizards will beat the Thunder in the championship in 2029. That's who's going to stop them. It's the Wizards.
Alex Sarr, MVP 2029. Book it.
But I don't know, like just the way the Thunder had orchestrated that rebuild and set themselves up for success in the future, you just have to really hold out hope that it's going to work out.
Bro, Ben, remember, sorry to cut you off, Chet Holmgren missed his rookie year.
Yeah.
Like, that team was just,
whole rookie year.
Everyone thought they were going to be irrelevant, but slowly but surely, Chris Paul and that sixth seed they had in the playoffs and lost in the first round, and eventually building a championship team, building guys, putting Jalen Williams, you have SGA and MVP. It's just like everyone was doing the role correctly, and they did it at such a high level, which is insane.
100%. We're getting to a really fun point of the year. We're starting to see how players are embracing the challenge that is coming forward. There's going to be struggles this year, but these young Washington Wizards, they got a chip on their shoulder, and they are ready to make it happen as it goes forward. And we're going to continue to make it happen here on Locked On Wizards. We thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen today and every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, so be sure to subscribe and send us to whoever is a diehard Washington Wizards fan like yourself. Let's keep this thing growing. Washington Wizards Nation, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. We will see you tomorrow. Wizards Nation, we are out.